I'm Elisa Parker. It's the Wild and Scenic Film Festival here in Nevada City. We're at the base of the Sierras. And Wild and Scenic Film Festival is one of the largest festivals of its kind in the United States. It's great to be here. We're at Nevada City Winery. It's been an incredible day so far, talking to these everyday action heroes, as I call them. I'm excited here to have a local with us, Malaika Bishop. She is the founder of Sierra Harvest, and the film that they're featuring here today is Seeding Our Future. And Janine Glista and I think Val Camp are part of that film as well. We had Amy Retzler on last night talking about Sierra Harvest and what an incredible organization it is, and it's just been phenomenal to watch the two of you unfold with this organization. And can you tell us, Malaika, just a little bit more about Sierra Harvest and the good work that you're doing for kids and our farmers and beyond?
Sure. So we are a nonprofit organization. We've been around about 10 years, and we serve farmers, kids, and the whole community. We work with 7,000 school kids in all the schools in western Nevada County. We help train farmers. We've trained almost 50 young farmers.
It's amazing.
And then we put in backyard gardens and gardens at community organizations that serve about 1,400 gardeners now.
That's phenomenal, Malaika. And I know several years ago, Sierra Harvest received a grant to help create this, and that's just incredible. You have a farmers conference coming up, right?
We do. We have the Sustainable Food and Farm Conference, February 9th through 11th, and we bring in world-renowned speakers to talk about the next wave of food and farming and the cutting edge in that industry. But then on Sunday we have a whole load of local presenters as well on every subject for farmers, ranchers, gardeners, homesteaders, and foodies.
So years ago, one of the first stories I was covering with CJ and Do was around school lunches kids line up for. And so part of that was going to our local schools. At the time, well, my daughters are still at that school age. We went to some of the school cafeterias and looking to see what they were being fed. And, the kids were receiving every single item in plastic. For example, the food was heated in plastic. I was kind of just floored, honestly, about what kids were being fed in our schools. And initially at the time, some of the story, and this is why it's significant too, because I think so many of the folks here today have heard things like that could never be done. And I remember hearing things about it like, well, you can never change the school lunches. Like they have a tight fist around it and they're not going to budge. So to see Sierra Harvest come in and to actually create something amazing to really overhaul our kids' school lunches, for example, and then just the synergy of how that ties to our community and the farmers. Can you speak to that a little bit? And also just what does that mean when you hear no, that's never possible? Like clearly you didn't listen to that.
Well, I think, activism takes time, right? And you have to have patience, and you have to also build relationships and have understanding. And so I think that's part of it, is that, yes, school lunches are highly regulated, and you have very little wiggle room, and you have very little budget, and it's a difficult thing to do it right, even if you're the best intentioned person. And so to have that understanding and work from there and say, okay, well, yes, it's challenging, and how can we think creatively and think out of the box to do something different?
How did you think? What's one example of how you thought out of the box in helping to really create healthier school lunches for our kids?
Well, our biggest success this year has been to get scratch-cooked meals into the Nevada City School District, Seven Hills and Deer Creek. And we saw that the high school district was already preparing lunches every day and said, okay, well, if they're already making them, can they bring them over here? And it turned out to be a win-win budget-wise for both the Nevada City School District and the high school district. And turns out kids love it. And so twice as many kids are buying school lunch, and the amount of trash has gone down dramatically. The custodians going, "What did you guys do?" Because the kids are actually
Right.
eating the lunch.
They're eating it.
They
They're
don't have to
actually
rip
eating
through
it.
a bunch of reheated plastic to get to something. It's
You're-
served onto a plate.
Right. You're like, well, we're serving them real food. And you know what? You're introducing kids to real whole food. And, especially some of the foods that some might think, well, kids, they're not going to eat a zucchini or but you're creating this relationship for them and really understanding where their food comes from as well.
Yeah, and part of it is about learning how to cook, So traditionally, food service would use big cans of beans. And if you can soak them and cook them, it costs you a lot less and you can get, a fresher product into the schools for less money. And so it's thinking of things like that. So one is training, getting people thinking about cooking again rather than just reheating.
Right. Malaika, so I've known you for some time, and I don't know if I've ever really asked you around just your own personal story around this. I have a sense of your personal motivation. Malaika has 2 young boys as well, but the passion of bringing whole, real food to our lives has been, I know it's been certainly part of a motivating factor for you for a long time, even when you were in the Bay Area. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I think, for me, growing up, I was raised with, we didn't have a lot of money, but my mom always made sure that we had fresh food and organic food, and that was really important to her. And, I saw how it is possible, even when you don't feel like you have a lot of money, to be able to eat well. And I had grandparents on both sides who were farmers, both my grandmothers. And my dad's parents were freedom riders during the civil rights movement. And so to me, activism was going to be part of my life, and it made sense for it to be around food and farming, because food relates to everything that we do. Everyone eats, everyone participates in the food economy. And if we can change our relationship to food, we can affect the health of ourselves, of our water, of our air, of everything around us.
Right. So the theme this year is groundswell. What's been, and there's been a lot that's happened just in the last year. How does groundswell relate to you on a personal level? Like, what does that mean for you, and especially given everything that's been happening this year?
Well, I guess I go to the ground and growing things in the soil, because that's where it all begins. And we're training now with Sierra Harvest the next generation of farmers, and our goal is to grow 20% of our food here locally. And that starts with our soil and making sure that we're protecting our soil and growing food that's going to be nutritious for our bodies and that feeds the farmers what they need to make. And if we can get that right, then all the other pieces will fall into line.
It's amazing, Malaika Bishop. And when is the film screening?
And I guess the other piece of that...
what is the other piece?
The other piece of that is that, we're raising this next generation to want this kind of food. And so we have 7,000 kids a year who are coming through our programs who are growing up saying, we want a salad bar and we want healthy organic food, and someone's got to be around to produce it for us.
That's right.
And that's where that next generation is going to come in, and we'll be able to have a living wage for farmers.
Sierra Harvest is an incredible organization. Thank you so much for everything you're doing to make a difference, and to Amy Retzler as well for co-creating this. It's incredible. I know Tara's nodding her head. It really is incredible. I swear every year at Wild and Scenic, just meeting some of the phenomenal everyday action heroes, it always blows me away. But really, that's what it is. It's just everyday people who are saying enough's enough, and you find what lights you up, you find what your passion is, and you go and you do it. And there is never listen to anyone that tells you it's not possible, because I tell you look at Sierra Harvest 9-10 years ago, they said it wasn't possible, and yes indeed it is, to have good healthy food in our schools. And it's happening right here. All right, thanks Malaika. I'm Elisa Parker. It's Wild and Scenic. We'll be right back.